that was devastating for me. But I've learned that, with every door closing is many more doors opening. And my life that I love and I am thankful for every day wouldn't have happened had it not been for that no. Hey guys, stay tuned. You are in for an incredible episode with myself, Evan Holladay, and Jonathan, the Heart Healthy Hustle. This is some amazing content, guys. Go smash subscribe.
What are you getting after? What seeds are you planting? What are you overcoming? Think big. Think even bigger. Take some risks. God's got your back. Go for it. Don't hold back. Don't ever have regrets in your life. Go fail. Go grow from those things. Live your life.
Your identity is not defined by your successes or your failures.
If you're not happy where you're at, you won't be happy where you're going. Choose to do the things that will make you the person you want to be, that will make you a better person next week and next year.
You're going to have to leave some things you're actually good at behind so that you can find what you're wired for, what you're born for.
Being a world-class entrepreneur is being in every area of life excellent.
It is the little things that are so easy not to do.
The best thing that you can do is assume the best in people.
I want people around the world to believe they can do something great with their life.
If I build the biggest business, but I destroy my physical body and I lose my health, I don't think that's success. While you're on the journey climbing to success, never forget the things that matter most.
Hey, everybody, and welcome back to another inspiring episode of the Heart Healthy Hustle. We are here today with my personal friend, Evan Holladay. Evan, say what's up.
Yes, so glad to be here, Jonathan. Thank you for having me, man.
Yeah, of course. Who is Evan Holladay? He's a real estate developer and investor with over $225 million and 1,347 units of multifamily real estate developed and invested. Evan's a founder and CEO at Holladay Ventures, where their team specializes in creating and investing in workforce, affordable, and mixed income communities. Their mission is to create quality housing opportunities and empower the residents to realize their full potential. Evan is also the host of the iTunes Top 200 Business and Real Estate podcast, Monumental, where he sits down with top leaders and entrepreneurs making massive change in the world. So, without further ado, Evan, what's a day in the life look like for you today? You can go into today. It's pretty nuts.
Yeah, man. Literally no day is ever the same. It's pretty awesome that way. It is pretty amazing when you're able to kind of choose your life and decide your life and set your life in the direction that you want it. Like today, we're here with family. We're actually in Punta Gorda, and family has a really nice house right on the water. So I've been basically, taking calls for interviewing for future employees for Holladay Ventures while being able to look out on this beautiful bay, and also talking with you today, doing a podcast interview. And then later today, I'll be talking to some lenders for a big, very large 200 plus unit multifamily project that we're working on, and then going to end the day with a coaching call. So that's today, but that's literally, that's kind of in a nutshell. It's one thing to the next, and always making sure I'm keeping myself busy and working towards whatever my goals are, and not just trying to fill up my calendar, but making sure consciously that I'm doing things that are actually going to work towards where I'm going.
Yes, that's powerful, man. So love to see a shot. You got to text me a picture of the water. I saw on your Instagram story the shot. I think it was Punta Gorda. You said, right? It's beautiful.
Yeah,
it's beautiful. Do you love the Caribbean scenery? You love that?
Yeah, honestly, I mean, there's something about it, like just being on the water. And Jeanette and I have talked about getting our own place down here at some point. So it's just peaceful, man. It's like, it just brings you back down to like, hey, this is what it's all about. This is, having that peacefulness throughout your day. Mm-hmm. I woke up early this morning and meditated before the sunrise, and got to see the sunrise like on the water. I mean, literally cannot get much better than that. So
start with a favorite success quote.
Something I remind myself of constantly, that really boils down to, for me, it boils down to my mission and my why. And that's something that I constantly remind myself of every day, of like, basically in a nutshell, like I believe everybody has the ability to do amazing, powerful, humongous things and massive impact. And that's part of the reason why we call it the Monumental Podcast, because I really, truly believe everybody can make monumental change in the world. And that's part of my why, is I want to help empower those people and then also provide that workforce and affordable housing to be like the step up for some of these families that don't necessarily have that opportunity, and then be able to, in turn, provide education and residential empowerment for our residents through financial literacy, through education, through self-development, through mindset, through health, really trying to.
So you're equipping the residents, actually.
Exactly. It's more than just providing the quality affordable housing, which in itself is a great thing. But it's like, no, that's one step. Let's take it all the way and say, hey, let's really empower these people to have the mindset and the knowledge that they need to then go on and realize their full potential. And, it kind of goes into that heart healthy hustle, is like, we want to empower our residents to be and have that mindset of a heart healthy hustle.
Yeah, that's terrific, man. I love it. So you are a real estate guy. So explain to the audience, for those listening, there's a few real estate people listening who are doing big things as well. And I'm wondering if, for those of us who don't know what that is, workforce, explain what that is.
Workforce housing is providing housing for families that are kind of like the backbone of the economy, the backbone of our communities. But especially nowadays are being priced out of actually good quality, affordable housing, because it's typically just a supply and demand question, where we're not building enough housing, and thus the prices are going up. And then these families that are making $30,000 to $70,000 a year and are working families, maybe even have two jobs, or firefighter, policemen, even nurses, secretaries, all of these families deserve a good quality place to call home, but we're literally not building enough of it. So that's driving up the prices, and then they're being pushed out to the suburbs. And, then they have a 45-minute to an hour commute just to get to, a $15 an hour job that may not be able to make ends meet. So our goal is to really partner with cities, counties, states, all the way up to the federal level, and create this public-private partnership where we actually can create housing that's at affordable level. And what we like to call it is attainable housing, because we want people to have the mindset of like, everybody should be able to attain a good quality home for themselves and for their family. And so that's what we want to provide. So with the public-private partnership, we can actually make that happen, and also redevelop neighborhoods.
Now that's altruistic, and I believe you, and I know that your motivation your intention is there. It's also lucrative, though, correct? So for those listening who are scowling and are just cynical to the core, this is a lucrative practice as well, and you're not ashamed of that, which I really admire. And I think a lot of people, once you realize that finding a lucrative thing is actually beneficial to all parties involved, if you have this kind of intent, it's powerful. And that's one of the reasons I brought you on the show today. Is I would love to, also we have Evan is a podcaster, so you always get you always have a great conversation when a fellow podcaster comes onto the show. So that's also exciting. And share with the audience, some of your recent life things that have happened for you. I know recently you got engaged. You're 28 years old. Share some things that have been going on in your life.
Yeah, man. So a lot has changed recently. We got engaged. My fiance and I, we'd been dating for 5 years, and recently, kind of culmination of a lot of different things. I went full time on my own, working on my own developments, and literally at the same time, within a matter of weeks, also got engaged. So it was kind of like a whirlwind of just lots of change. But I feel like that's where you get the most growth, is where you go outside of your comfort zone. It was funny too. Jeanette, my fiance, had no idea it was coming. I mean, she had a good idea, but that trip specifically, we went to Costa Rica, and she just had no idea. She thought it was a celebration for starting Holladay Ventures. And so it was a real blast. But I think it's just, once you find a partner like Jeanette and I, it's amazing, man. It's powerful when you have a partner that's like actually filling your sails and helping you in every step of the way and being your confidant and being your partner. I mean, she's literally, I call her like my COO of Holladay Ventures, because she really is like, she's helped me in every facet of the business. And there's some
Sounds like
things
she
that,
should be on this interview, man. What's going on?
yeah, I know, man. She is literally like, I would not be half of where I am today if it were not for her.
Yeah,
And
100%.
I truly mean that. Like it's powerful, man. It's like, it's almost like you are stepping into not only a life together, but also if you have the right mindset, you're stepping into a business together. And I think it's important to think about that of like, you are doing this for your family unit together. You need to have that really positive support from your partner.
It's powerful. So you were recently engaged while in Costa Rica. That's fantastic, man. And congratulations again.
Thank you.
I like this approach to this too. With when did you go all in on your own? So I imagine you've been going in, more or less dabbling. What was that transition? What were you doing before? Were you a real estate agent for another broker? Like, how did all this tie in together and get you to where you're at right now?
Yeah, so I'll go back to kind of the beginning of real estate for me, because I feel like that really helps put it in a perspective for people that are thinking about real estate or also thinking about taking it to that next level in real estate. Like you and I talked about a few days ago, I got started in pre-med in college, realized very quickly I hate science, I hate chemistry. I really was just passionate about helping people, and it wasn't actually the science or chemistry that was going to get me there. And I saw this big $55 million mixed use student housing development going on. I was like, that, I don't know what it is, but that's got my name written all over it.
Were these dorm rooms?
Yeah, it was student housing. It was kind of like, the luxury student housing, the high end private developer came into campus and was putting in like 13 restaurants and shops on the first floor and then all housing above it. Like, it was a really cool development, really complex. And I was like, that's got me all over it. So I reached out to him, got him to hire me, basically convinced him after bringing a few hundred people to the groundbreaking. And then, being the first person to hire there, I learned from soup to nuts, like every single thing about development, real estate, finance, management, leasing up, like learned everything about it. And then a group of us, myself and 4 other people, we started a modular development company in college. And that's when I really got knowledgeable and figured out about this whole thing about affordable housing, about how you can partner with cities and they actually have a need for affordable housing and they're willing to help finance affordable housing. And that just opened up my eyes to be like, wow, I can actually do good with my developments. Like, I don't have to just build high-end luxury for the super high income that can afford it anywhere in the city. I can actually do good with my passion and my skills, and I can actually have an impact on the world and make some money at the same time. That's what really got me going. I was like, I can develop, I can build, I can change a neighborhood forever, and I can impact the residents forever by giving them a better solid ground to build a family. And that's kind of where it took off, was that modular company. We were doing modular mixed income with affordable and having cities help pay for it. And by doing that,
what is modular?
so modular, for those who don't know, is basically like we built it in a factory first, almost like a shipping container, like the same shape. We took houseboat manufacturing plants in Kentucky, and they had just laid off 1,100 skilled workers because of the housing market crash in '08. And so we said, how can we put those skilled workers back to work, use the same layout, the rectangular shape of a houseboat, and be able to build that in segments. And then we could literally put it on a flatbed and ship it to the site and build it in half the time, not have to worry about weather or different, environmental constraints, and be able to literally just stack them like Legos on a site. And you can go like 8 stories in like 2 days. Like this is crazy. It's a game changer. I mean, really right now, it's just got to have the costs come down and certain regulations get out of the way. But at the time, we were just pushing the needle and saying, okay, well, let's start out with single family. So we built a few single family, and then we took it to multifamily. And that's when we were trying to really get the economies of scale and go big with this so we could have a big impact. And with that, we were looking for partners, looking for investors. Typically in real estate, the bigger you get, they want to see track record. Your investors, your lenders, partners, the city, they want to see track record and they want to see financial backing. So those were two things.
Let me pause us. Who did you see modeling this as a possibility? Like, how did you know how to do any of this?
Good question. We asked a lot of questions. So this was in tandem with a part of the college classes I was taking. They basically encouraged us to start a company. And by doing that, it really got us outside of our comfort zone of saying like, oh, this isn't just a classroom thing. Like we actually need to go out and start this. We need to talk to people. And I don't want to just start any company. I want to start something that I understand. I'm like a mini expert in, in the limited time that we were working on this. And I ask as many questions as I can because I want, the other thing too, is that they put you in front of judges. Like we were basically doing pitch competitions for like basically entrepreneurship competitions with other teams from other schools. So we were competing, and basically these judges were venture capitalists with real money that they were ready to invest in startups. And so we're like, man, we got to be really prepared for every single question that they could come up with. And so that's kind of where our starting point was. We're like, well, we need to know this thing backwards and forwards so that if any question comes up, we are an expert on that question or we know how to get the answer. So that's when we started putting together a board of directors. We had this lady that led a nonprofit for, single parents that needed affordable housing and were trying to get a college education. We had the head of the housing authority in Louisville where we went to school. We had a private developer who did affordable housing. We had another private investor that invested in affordable housing. So we had like every aspect of a project, and these people were willing to help us out and actually put time and effort into, guiding us, answering our questions. And that's really where I think we learned the most was just by, we were going out looking for actual projects that we could work on, actual sites where we could build on. And then we were going to our board of directors and saying, hey, this is where we are. This is why we're stuck. What kind of advice, what kind of feedback would you have for us? And just having those mentors in place for us was hugely impactful for us as far as like taking it to that next level and actually taking it from like just an idea to actually like building a few of these units.
Awesome. Okay. Now going into starting your own thing, jump back into that if you would, that story of transitioning out of this and into your own thing.
Yeah. So after we created the modular company, we were looking for bigger partners that we could partner with to scale this thing up. And that's when
let me pause this. What do you mean? Company. Bigger partners. What do you mean by this?
So like we were talking about, it's partners with capital and with experience because lenders.
So are you Googling how to find wealthy venture capitalists? Like, what do? You know what I'm saying? So are you going to the real estate investment clubs in your local city? Like, how are you finding these people? What do you do? How do you pitch them? What is it? Or maybe not how do you pitch them, but in other words, for those of us who don't know what this is, trying to keep people on track with our interviews. So, what does that look like?
Yeah, no, I love the questions. So really it came down to doing our homework on who were the successful groups that were already doing it and were doing it at the level that we wanted to get at. So, and especially like in our region, people that we could have access to, or we were 1 to 2 degrees of separation away from. And so I knew of this group in town in Louisville called LDG Development. And they were at the time one of the biggest affordable developers in the country. And they're right here in my backyard. And a buddy of mine from college was already in real estate. He was a realtor, and he's like, hey, if there's any group you got to talk to, these are the guys. And they were already on my list. But once he said that, I was like, okay, well, they're on my list. My buddy who I trust is telling me I need to talk to them. So I immediately put them on the top of the list of people I need to talk to. And then I find out about this golf outing, and I'm not much of a golfer, but in order to make connections, I'm willing to put myself out there and look like a fool and play golf. So I signed up for this golf outing because he's like, you have to go to this golf outing. This is where all the real estate players are playing. And this company
Is it was it a tournament? Was it a charity event? How did that
It
go?
was like a foursome event where it's basically a charity event for this Kentucky Real Estate Exchangers group. And they put me on a foursome with the owners of LDG. I basically was asking around. I was like, hey, are you the owners of LDG? Are you the owners? I was asking around constantly. And then finally I found them and they're like, you should play foursome with the owners of LDG. I was like, perfect. Some guy got sick. I ended up like somehow getting in on a foursome with the owners. So I got to spend like 5 hours straight playing golf with the owners. And that's when I was like, okay, well, this is the way that we're going to build a relationship and take it to the next level, partner on something together. And it was pretty funny because the before we even tee off, they're on the first hole, they're like, so what's your handicap? And I was like, oh shoot, like what's a handicap? Like I was very new at golf, very rusty.
Wait a minute. Did you are you a hustler? Did you hustle them or did you just say I don't play?
No, I was like, good question. And literally that first hole, I swing and I miss. And I was like, oh my God,
No
like this
way.
is terrible. Like what a terrible first impression. And I'm
That's
like their
awesome.
teammate, right? Like we're playing on a team together against all the other teams. So they're like, damn, like we got this kid that isn't worth anything. So we're basically three people. And by the end of the day, though, I don't know what happened. They just were basically coaching me on golf. By the end of the day, I was playing the best round of my life, and they taught me how to play. And all of a sudden, they were starting to use my hits when we were playing best ball. And by the end of it, we decided to play our own hole, and so it was all four of us against each other. And basically, when we were playing, it came down to me and one other guy. And they come up, they're like, I got $20 on the kid. Well, then they come up to me and whisper, he's like, hey, one of the owners is like, hey, if you make this putt, you got a job with us. And I'm sitting here thinking, I'm like, oh, dang, like no pressure at all. And I end up sinking this 40-foot putt, literally like curves around and sinks in.
Yeah.
And we're all just like looking at each other like, oh my God, did that really just happen? And we're all like high-fiving. Like, I don't even know these guys. We're like high-fiving and hugging each other. And then after they're like, well, we're not going to give you a job just because you made a putt. And then the very next day they call up. They're like, hey, could you come down to our office? And so we sat down and they're like, hey, we'd love to have you on our team. Like, we don't even want to talk to anybody else. Like, you are the type of guy that is going to get stuff done. And I thought, I was like, you know what? As much as I would love to continue with the modular, I felt like that was an opportunity I could not pass up, where they were willing to and wanting to take me under their wing and teach me everything they knew. And so that's really where I cut my teeth. I mean, they literally threw me in the deep end from day one. It was like, hey, source deals, find land, tie it up, work the entitlements, work the numbers, work the investors, work with the politicians, work with the mayor. Like they literally were just like, hey, if you want to produce, make it happen. And that's really where I started, and I learned with them for 6 years, and then now here I am today doing my own thing.
So this is exciting. I'm going to be asking you an aha moment that you may have had during this time. How old were you during this time?
About 23 to today, about 29.
So there are no age limits to, pursuing your mission.
Yep.
Like there are people, and again, a lot of us are in our 20s, young professionals, 30s. We're listening to this and we're like, oh, well, I'll get to this. I'll get to that one day. Just take the action, fail faster, right? I mean, the mindset is there. It's kind of goes without saying at this point. I don't focus as much as I used to on that with my show, because I know people listening are wanting the tactical advice, are wanting the, okay, great, good for you, Evan. You're a success in real estate and you're only 28, 29. How's that going to help me? What can I learn from your journey? What can I apply? So that being said, this is really interesting to me so far. Appreciate you sharing. What happens next? What happens next? Yeah, what happens next is a Holladay Ventures company.
Yeah, so really for me, what it came down to was I had always had the inclination to really run my own thing and really lead the charge and be an entrepreneur, be my own boss. And I knew at some point that was going to happen. And it really came down to like the last 3 years I was there. I was basically sourcing all the deals. I was leading all the deals. I was basically doing, carrying the lion's share of the weight for these deals. And I was like, man, I can do this all on my own. I was like, this is, if there is a time, now is the time for me to really commit to myself, commit to my business. And also I got really clear on my why, the why I mentioned before. And really to dive even deeper into that, my why is to create create or preserve 100,000 workforce and affordable housing units across the United States and even internationally, and really empower the residents like we talked about. Like that, to me, that huge, crazy number of 100,000 units and being able to take that to scale, I was like, man, there is no way I can do that working for somebody else. And I was like, the only way I can get there is by leading the charge, leading the company, leading the vision, and being able to see, okay, I want to take this thing bigger than anybody's ever taken it before. I mean, really only the top 2 or 3 companies, real estate, multifamily companies in the world own that many units. And I was like, man, I want to take this bigger than the company I'm working at. Like my vision is bigger than this company.
Absolutely. And 2 things. One, you knew that you needed to learn, so you joined up with people who could teach you, right?
Yeah.
To the point. That's powerful. You have to have that initial humility. Would you agree?
Oh yeah, 100%. I recommend that to people. I'm like, either find a mentor or find a partner or work for somebody.
Yeah, and there's no shame to it. We do live in a time where it's like, oh, if you're in your 20s, do your own thing. Like if you fail, so what? You're so young. But there is a way to leverage learning from people who are winning and are way ahead of us. We can learn from people and companies and partners who are already doing it, have already done it, and are wanting to contribute now because they're successful. They want to contribute. I mean, so it's amazing, but it will also help you to lay that foundation and not try to do everything on our own, like that lone wolf mentality. Second thing, why not 200,000?
Why not 200,000? I mean, maybe we can take it there. I set the 100,000 unit goal for by the time I'm 50. So that still leaves a lot of time after 50 to hit the 200.
Because exactly right. And once you get that first, you know what I'm saying? It's the hockey stick growth at that point where those thousands start happening a little easier than the first 100 to 200, 2,000 are incredibly challenging. And then from there is, you know what I mean?
Yeah, you're exactly right. Let's do it, man.
I see it, man. Yeah, you could definitely, man. Let's get after it. So what would you say? This is a total change of subject, but what would you say to a lonely entrepreneur? You just mentioned in what you were sharing, you were sourcing the deals and you say, okay, I could do this myself. I'm sourcing most all the deals. When you say that, what are some tips? What would you say to, lonely entrepreneurs who are just maybe in a rut right now? What's your number one tip for finding deals, connecting with others?
Yeah, I would say broadly, lonely entrepreneurs, I would say find peers, find people like yourself that are go-getters, that are A players, that are willing to put it all out on the line, that are willing to hustle, and, find those people at meetups, find them, like we do a monthly Monumental multifamily meetup here in Nashville. And, we even take it with us on, we're going to a conference this weekend.
Awesome.
And we're going to do a mini little meetup there. But it's about building that culture around you. And you don't necessarily have to host it, but it helps when you host it because then people see you as the connector and the leader of that group. But finding groups like that where you're actually involved and you're participating and you're also like connecting with people like Nashville, for example, like, I moved here, my fiance and I moved here a year and a half ago, and I had worked here for, the last 6 years, but it's different when you move somewhere and you really have to like commit to a city. And again, that goes back to like getting yourself uncomfortable. Like if you're going to grow, if you're going to get from that place of loneliness, then the only way you can get out of it is by getting uncomfortable. And, for us, it was like, I literally like for the year and a half we've been here, almost every morning, it seems like I'm going to coffee with somebody. It was a lender, it was an architect, it was a broker, it was an investor. It was just like some random person that somebody said I needed to meet. It's like you never know who you're going to meet, who you're going to click with So it's almost like you have to give every relationship a shot, especially if you have somebody recommending that you meet them. Like I've gotten business partners, I've gotten investors, I've gotten amazing connections from chance introductions. Like somebody introduced me to this person, they introduced me to that person, this person introduces me to a broker that finds me a deal that's worth $45 million. Like that chain reaction wouldn't have happened if I never had that first coffee. So I would say it boils down to getting outside of your comfort zone, being a part of a group, finding peers, and meeting people, putting yourself out there.
I will say, I've seen this happen firsthand. That's how we met. I met you at Columbus, Ohio, at that at the Mixer at the North Market, and you just came right up. And, you knew that we were both podcasters. I was with Brock. He's also a podcaster. And I had just met someone from the Roommates podcast. And, we hit it off, had a good conversation. You asked, what's your dream guest to have on a podcast? It's just cool, man. Like, you just put yourself out there, always giving relationships a chance. It's so impactful. Question for you though, on that vein of the every other day coffee in the morning with someone new. You may be exaggerating a little bit, do you think?
When I'm in Nashville, yeah, it's probably
3 times a week.
I would say 3 coffees a week and maybe 2 to 3 lunches a week.
Are you the guy that's saying, all right, I got to go? Like, how do you usually let those things go? Because some people are talkers, right? And after 10 minutes, you could tell if this is valuable for either of you. So what do you do to kind of cut it off if it's no good?
Yeah, I typically try to limit it to an hour or less, unless there's a specific purpose to the meeting. If we're going to talk about a deal, then I'll take as long as it needs to take. But if it's more just an introductory, get to know you, then I try to limit it to an hour or less. Because you're right. I mean, those things can take hours if you let somebody talk and talk and talk. But I think the other thing too is just also finding people. I feel like once you put your energy out into the world, that this is what you're looking for, this is what you can give to people, you come from a giving background and a giving mindset, usually people that resonate with that and come towards that are typically people you already want to connect with anyways. Like I'd say the vast majority of the people that I end up getting coffee with are people that I already want to be connected with, or people that I realize once we meet up, I'm like, okay, we're at that same wavelength where we're both wanting to make massive impact, and we're hustlers, and we're just trying to do good in the world.
Yeah, dude, powerful message here, man. And I resonate with you. We have a lot in common. I had, when in the intro, when you said you were studying pre-med, you wanted to help people, was your real motivation. That's always been my motivation as well. And I routed towards pre-physical therapy because of my affinity for health and wellness and exercising, and realizing that I can help people that way and somewhat enjoy it because I also like health and wellness. So for yourself, that's so powerful, man, is you just want to help people, and you realize, there are other ways of doing it. There are ways that are actually where we can leverage our gifts and our strengths. And that's a sweet spot, right? That's where we want to try to find.
Yes.
Great insights. So, I'm always curious with like even ad hoc meetings, right? How do you schedule those? Do you use, what do you use to stay organized? Because once that momentum picks up.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree. So I use for phone calls and for podcast interviews and for coaching discovery calls, basically for everything but in-person meetings, I use Calendly. So I have like a 30-minute phone call set up where I've actually got 15-minute, 30-minute, and different ones specifically set up for Monumental podcast interviews and what was the last one? Coaching. So coaching discovery calls, doing that first call. So each of those has its own booking, and I have different days of the week set up for each one. Like I typically like to do my phone calls in the afternoons. I like to do my podcast interviews 1 to 2 days per month and just batch all of them on the same day. And then the in-person meetings, I typically try to do them myself. But I am in the process of hiring somebody. That's one of the calls I was doing this morning, was to find somebody to help with managing my calendar, because that's one of those things where it's like, I know it needs to get done, but is it the highest and best use of my time if I can be spending that same time going out and making connections with somebody that could lead to our next deal?
What are some things that I can do, action steps that you would recommend taking to facilitate connecting with these great people?
I would say a couple things. Come from a place of giving, like we talked about, meaning, don't think about what's in it for me. Think about what's in it for them. What are they going to get out of this coffee meeting? What are they going to get out of you wanting to meet with them? And if you start from that place of saying, hey, I can give connections, I can give relationships, I can help you on a project, I can give you my time, I can volunteer for your charity. Like, come from a place of giving, and 9 times out of 10 that relationship will continue to foster after that first meeting, and you'll be able to get that first meeting. And also come from a place of like, you should be adding value in whatever it is you're doing in your work. Like, I noticed, I'm sure you know this with your podcast, is like, once I had a podcast, so I've been doing it for about a year and a half. As soon as I had the podcast and it was rolling and we had some momentum behind it, literally, people want to meet with me now. It's just an added layer of like, hey, Evan has a podcast, he has an audience. If there's a possibility of me being on a show, then that adds this whole nother element of like, hey, I can give something to them. I can give them an audience, and they can give me a great interview that I can share with my audience. So it's like having certain things that you make you, one, interesting, and two, like, you can actually give something to them. I think that's, if you're coming from that place, then that will be able to help you open so many more doors. And then also, people just like hustlers. It's like the heart healthy hustle. It's like people like to just talk to people that are making stuff happen. Like, once I got a few deals done under my belt, people are like, oh, Evan can close. Evan is a developer who can close deals, and he does what he says he's going to do. And believe me, like, once I got a few deals under my belt, it's like people are calling me like, hey, let's meet up. Hey, let's meet. Like, it just compounds on itself when you can actually do what you say you're going to do and take massive action and be a hustler. People want to be around you.
Listening allows you to multitask. Let's say you're driving to work, you're running errands, cleaning up on a Saturday, whatever you're doing. And that's why I've reached out to audible.com. I became an Audible affiliate so you can get a free audiobook. I use Audible for many of my audiobooks, tremendous selection of books readily available. So if you don't want to spend a monthly subscription to Audible, put in your name and email, at which point you can listen to that audiobook, keep it forever, and cancel your subscription before 30 days so that you don't get charged for the monthly subscription. This way you get a free book. Go to triplehaudiobook.com. That's HHHaudiobook.com. It's a fact. It's a fact. I love it, man. I'm wondering, real estate focused.
Yes.
Let's get tactical here. Where did your commitment to excellence come from?
I think my parents. I think that's a big one for me. My parents, just at a young age, just instilled in me that, you have to start from a place of love and a place of giving to others, and also a place of like, you're meant to do a lot in this world. And I saw my parents doing that, and I saw them giving back, and I saw them creating companies. And that just really got me in the right mindset at a young age to be like, hey, I have a lot I can do here, and I have a lot of people I can help.
How do you stay grounded in your initial success and not over focus on failures or successes for the sake of maintaining level grounded mind? Because success can lead to pride, and that will just lead to you becoming a failure long term. And then failure is also a distraction where you're over focused on priorities and getting back to the success. So how do you stay mission minded throughout these incremental wins? And you're successful now. You're going to become so much more massively successful as you continue to contribute generosity to the world. So I'm wondering, what are your ways of, let's just jump into the heart healthy hustle round. What are, for your heart, what do you do to care for and strengthen your internal character?
To strengthen my internal character, it comes down to meditating on a daily basis. So like I was telling you, like this morning, waking up, first thing I do when I wake up is I grab a big glass of water and I go outside if possible, and I meditate. And that honestly, that keeps me so grounded. Like I've been meditating for 3 years now. And the last 3 years have just been like a game changer for me. Like being able to have that level head first thing in the morning, it strengthens your mind to a place where you're coming from a place of peace and like you're more humble and you're literally just more grounded. Like you're literally just more calm. You're like, huh, things don't bother me as much. Like little things don't bother me as much. Things that would stress me out or things that I would overthink in my head no longer get to me. And that comes from a place of like being like, okay, well, remember my meditation, remember my breathing. It just calms you down. It like gets you more focused on who you are in the moment, in the present. And I think that is what really helps me strengthen my heart and my core focus and really just keeping me grounded is
kind of getting alone, sitting in silence and solitude, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Kind of reflect.
Yeah, I do.
Daily goals.
Yeah. So I do 10 to 15 minutes every morning. And I usually use the app Headspace. That helps me just do a little guidance throughout and also helps remind me to not, try to avoid the distractions. Distractions are going to come and go while you're meditating, but you need to just remember to always come back to your breathing and focus on your breathing.
I think meditating on scripture are really important. For me, I do similar. I've tried Headspace. I forget what it's called, but it can really just kind of provide me helps me to be more grounded and get focused on what actually matters. So you do that. Okay. How do you maintain your physical health and avoid burning out? What's your routine look like? You mentioned you wake up, you do some drinks a lot of water. What's next?
So ideally, it's going to the gym. It hasn't happened as much lately as I'd like, but it's a combination of.
Yeah. Come on, man, what's going on?
Yeah, I'm not as focused on it as I should be. Honestly, that's something that has been something I've wanted to put more time and more energy into because sometimes you get too distracted by the business and get sucked into the success of the business. I'm at a point now.
One of the hardest things with fitness, one of the hardest things I'm interjecting because you can't outsource your fitness. That's one thing you can't hire someone. You can make someone, here's a expedited plan to eat and work out, but no one can work out for you.
Or eat healthy for you. But yeah, it's a combination of that or mountain biking. That's my go-to of like this weekend, went mountain biking for 2 hours on Sunday morning and just like getting at it outside, outdoors. It's kind of that meditative state because it's literally like you're out in the middle of the forest and you're pushing your body as hard as you can. And that's honestly the most fun for me is mountain biking.
It's really cool. Hustle, we actually talked about what your main motivation is and your why. Can you think of any visceral stories or examples of when you were younger or just something that you saw along your journey thus far that scarred you or keeps you motivated? I'll share with you. I used to deliver beer in New Jersey. I appreciated the job. I actually really liked parts of it, but there were parts of it as well that were just terrible, monotonous, and not pleasant. Whenever I see a beer truck going by that says something like, whatever beer brand is on the side of the big truck, I remind myself that I used to be inside that truck and make multiple stops a day and deliver to casinos and bars. And it's not an easy, and I'm not knocking that. If that's what you do for a living, it's a great job. Don't get me wrong. It actually pays really well. But my point is my experience with doing that, though I learned a lot and it built a lot within me, it's such a motivator because you see those trucks all over the place. I will literally look at those trucks and be like, let's go. Let's get to work. You know what I mean? So do you have anything visceral that you can think back to, like a trigger almost?
One thing that, is a reminder for me was when I was graduating college, I was really dead set on taking the idea of the modular, what I was working on in the modular, and I was actually dead set on going and getting a Fulbright scholarship, going to Sweden, getting a master's in sustainable design and development, and really being able to learn all about modular, all about how to best build these things and actually make it happen. And I ended up getting first on the wait list. I didn't get in. And that was like heart crushing. I was like, are you kidding me? Like, I did all this work. I mean, I must have poured like hundreds of hours into that application. I had all these references from Swedish professors. And, I really, really dove into this and envisioned myself being awarded a Fulbright and being, living in Sweden for 2 years. And then I got that letter saying I was waitlisted, and I was like, oh my gosh, that was devastating for me. But I've learned that, with every door closing is many more doors opening. And my life that I love and I am thankful for every day wouldn't have happened had it not been for that no. I would have gone in another great direction, but the direction I have now, where I've been able to provide affordable housing for 1,300 units already, and on my way to 100,000 units, and having that goal and vision now, and then also meeting my beautiful fiance. I mean, none of that may have happened if I had gone to Sweden. So it's a way of saying, okay, well, certain things may not go your way, and there may be devastations along the way. And I another one is I lost my mom 4 years ago. I was very, very close to my mom, and losing her was very painful. I was 24 at the time, and that was really, really tough, but it taught me so much. And at the end of the day, like, it's tough talking about it, but it's like, that situation and that, painfulness that we all had to go through, it taught me so much about life, about who I care about caring about my family, my friends, and also cherishing every moment. Because, I realized, I was like, oh my gosh, we could literally, any one of us could go any day, and you just really don't know. So that taught me, I was like, family is so much more important to me than I realized leading up to that. I was like, whoa, like, I need to be making things a priority to me that really, really matter to me.
Thank you for sharing that, Evan.
Yeah.
That's really deep, man. You were 24, you lost your mom. Do you mind if I ask how?
Pancreatic cancer. So by the time she knew, by the time she felt anything, she just thought it was a stomach ache for the longest time.
Yeah. My condolences, man.
I appreciate that.
Wow. I'm sure she'd be very proud of you and where you're at right now, man. So keep striving, keep going. It's very fantastic. That being said, how did you go through that? And, it's no really way to make that a positive, but how did you get to where you are right now and, have a positive outlook going through that so recently, instead of, sinking into long-term just sorrow?
I think it goes back to, like, the whole, it was very, very tough, but I knew that I was like, well, my mom inspired me to be a person of giving back, and to be a loving person, and to be a caring person. My mom taught me all those things. And so I knew that to best represent her and to carry on her mission and vision was to be able to give back, and also think even bigger than just right outside of my comfort zone. Like, I want to take this way beyond my comfort zone, because I know that would be the best way to help memorialize my mom. And also, learning from that you only get a certain amount of time here, and time's the only thing we have that we can't get more of. And so that just taught me, I was like, I need to be taking massive action, because I don't know when my day is. I want to make sure I get every second's worth of goodness out of this life. And that moment with my mom taught me that.
Time's the only thing we don't get more of. That's great, man. Again, thank you for sharing that. What do you think is holding back most? And this is specifically proactive individuals. I'm not speaking to as much, and to anyone really, but what do you think would be holding back anyone from really reaching for that next momentum, that next level of just continued progress? What do you think is holding most proactive individuals back from that next level? Do you think it's the refusal to let go of where they're at because they're finally achieving some things and they really like what that feels like, so they're maybe afraid to let go of that to get to where they need to go? What do you think?
Yeah, honestly, what's holding most individuals back is really just the mindset. I think, even myself included, I have certain goals and certain desires that I sometimes maybe even talk myself out of, or maybe talk myself out of for a period of time. And then I realize that those are like the voices in my head, the monkeys in my head. And I feel like all of us have those monkeys. And I feel like it's about first recognizing that, sometimes you are the one that is like, you have some upcoming event and you're portraying it in your mind as going negatively. Well, guess what's going to be far more likely to happen if you continue thinking that way without, putting a stop to that. So I feel like that's the biggest thing is realizing that, first off, you are a powerful human being who can do just about anything you put your mind to. And knowing that first and foremost, and then putting the whole 10x rule on anything you're doing, I think that's huge as far as taking away limiting beliefs, is that you have to realize that first you take off the shackles of saying, I can do anything. And then you say, okay, well, anything I think I can do, I can probably do 10 times more than that. Or at least I should shoot that high, knowing that I can land somewhere among that. And that's what I did with my goal. Honestly, I was like, you know what? I want to do, it wasn't 10x, but it was like, I want to do 50,000 units. And then I was like, you know what? Why do 50? Let's do 100. Like, I can have a bigger impact than I even realize. And I think that's one of the biggest things about limiting belief. And then from there, it's just taking action. And it's like getting your mind prepped so that you are constantly in a action taking mode and making sure you get the first things done in the morning that are the most important, because things are going to come up. It happens every day.
Yeah. So are you recommending, have you heard of the Charles Schwab technique where he recommended do one thing until it's done and then do the next thing?
Yeah. Oh, 100%.
It's a temptation, especially for driven people, to fall into that distraction of, I really like this progress I'm feeling because I'm making a little progress and all this other stuff, but I never finished number one,
No, 100%. I've fallen into that trap. I think everybody does, but being cognizant of that and being like, no, blinders, put your blinders on. And, if that means taking on less, then do that. But make sure you're getting stuff done. That's the other thing too. Execution, you have to take it all the way across the finish line, because, I know people they're like, they talk a big game up front and then they just never finish anything. And nobody wants to work with somebody that doesn't finish what they say they're going to do.
Powerful. That's so powerful. Yeah, and this is so hear this, guys, hear this when you're listening, because I was talking to somebody and he brought this up. He said, most people, they don't actually do what they say they're going to do. It doesn't even matter if it's a big deal.
Yeah.
All right. So if you could go back in time, let's take it back to a darker period of your earlier 20s, perhaps, or even in later teens. You see your younger self, you're sitting in Louisville or maybe even in Nashville. You're looking out over a body of water and you're sitting on a park bench. The park bench paradigm question is, if you could walk up to them, put your arm around your own shoulder, and present day Evan, you walk up to the younger Evan and you could say anything. You have 60 seconds. Use the pronoun you. What would you say?
You've got this. You're going to do amazing, powerful, beautiful, spectacular things, and you're going to impact a lot of people. And you have to believe in yourself, and you have to surround those that are most important to you. And you have to empower others and elevate others, because that's the only way you're going to have the biggest impact that you see.
And you're going to get at least 200,000. Just saying.
Yep.
Awesome, man.
Yep.
Cool. Well, Evan, it's been a great time talking with you. Appreciate your time. Share with us how we can follow up with you after the show. How can we show support to?
Yes, evanholladay.com. That's my website. That's where the podcast is as well. You can get in touch with me there. Check out Monumental Podcast. And also the way Jonathan and I connected, well, first off connected was Instagram. I'm big on Instagram, so send me a DM or connect with me over there, and we'll take it from there.
If you're interested in learning more about partnering with Holladay Ventures, where can they go for that?
Go to holladayventures.com, and there's a button there that says partner with us, and they can become an investor in our deals all over the country, mainly in the Southeast. But we're also looking for partners if they have deals as well as investors. So we'd love to have them.
Last parting word. What do you think your 10-year future self would say to you today?
My 10-year future self would say to me today, You're just getting started. Keep hustling.
Awesome, bro. I'm excited to collaborate, and I'm going to be coming on Evan's podcast.
Yes.
When do you think that would be published?
That should be in the next month or two.
Okay, so I'm going to be coming on there. We're going to be talking about basically house hacking. I got the new book from Bigger Pockets here. I'm showing it on the camera. Evan's smiling and nodding, and we're going to use myself as a case study for basically how to house hack and learn more about real estate from a tactical standpoint. So you're going to want to make sure you're subscribed to his podcast so you get notified of that.
Yes, I love it. And also, I wanted to thank you, Jonathan, because this was an amazing interview. I loved the questions. I loved your energy, man. So keep at it, man. You're crushing it.
Congratulations on making it to the end of this episode. What about this episode stood out to you? Next, I need your help sharing this show. I want this podcast to impact and reach 6,000 people per episode by August 31st, 2019. And I want us to reach 15,000 people per month by March 29th, 2020. Have you been enjoying multiple episodes of The Heart Healthy Hustle? I'm thrilled to share with you an exclusive invitation to join our new Facebook community. To get to know other Heart Healthy Hustlers, simply go to thehearthealthyhustle.com/Facebook, where you can expect to see different members of our community being featured weekly in Facebook Live calls. I appreciate all of your love and support, and I will see you in the next episode. As always, be generous on every occasion. There is a story for you, and live wide open.